With the departure of Quay Walker, the time is now for Green Bay Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper to take the next step into NFL stardom. While the Packers added a key veteran in Zaire Franklin this offseason, Cooper is still expected to be a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker after a promising start to his career. After going in the second round of the 2024 NFL Draft out of Texas A&M, Cooper has filled the stat sheet in his first two seasons, racking up 205 combined tackles with 17 TFLs, 4 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. Expectations are at an all-time high for Cooper heading into 2026, especially with defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon now in the building, as the former Cardinals head coach has a track record of turning defensive players into stars. Cooper's talent has been widely discussed, but let's dive into some of the tape to show you why the Packers' third-year linebacker might be due for a breakout season in today's episode of Best Available. Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, and give us a follow on socials at Best Available YT, or subscribe to our podcast feed on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. As always, a big thank you to all of our members who continue to support the channel. If you'd like to support us and get full access to my NFL Draft Big Board, it's just $2.99 a month. I'll leave details to that in the episode description. But let's dive into the Cooper film, because if you know me, this has been one of my favorite players dating back to his time with the Aggies. I'm really excited about this one. I love watching Cooper. He is such a fun blend of speed, wiry strength, competitiveness, and he can wear a lot of hats on a defense. And this is a good example. Starting against that Lions game, gets off on the right foot right away for the Packers in this game. You see a lot of that hustle, and if you know me and you follow me on Twitter, you know the catchphrase when I was evaluating Cooper out of Texas A&M was "that boy fast," because this dude loves to hustle his tail off when it comes to playing football, and you're going to see that here. It's really just going to be supposed to be a simple inside run here to Jahmyr Gibbs, and so Cooper is climbing a little bit. He's trying to see how this play is developing. He's going to get hands on this blocker and try and stay extended with a wide base to A, not get washed out, and B, be able to disengage if something happens. And as you'll see, Gibbs decides to start bouncing this out. So instead of staying on that block, Cooper is going to pursue across the field, and then just look at this pursuit hustle, man. He is just, going for it, and, we have help on the outside, makes that tackle, but then, Cooper flies in, always help the first guy making the tackle, and then Cooper just wrestles him to the ground. But you can just see, man, just some of that hustle in Cooper's game. We got a lot of plays to go through, and that hustle shows up, and that play speed quite a bit. Switching to a red pen, I think that'll be a little easier to see for the rest of the video. But we've just got an inside run this time with David Montgomery, much more of a power back that wants to run through you. And Cooper, he's a little wiry. He's definitely filled out in his, couple of years at the NFL level, but he's not a big thumper, right? He's a sideline to sideline and, fill, spill. Think of more like a Will linebacker than a Mike. Quay's probably a good example of that. A little thicker, maybe a little slower, but really is physical. But Cooper brings that physicality when he has to. Great example here. Just, hey, we got to fill interior. They're both trying to combo. I think that's Devontae Wyatt, and then climb up to Cooper. Now Wyatt's swim over move ends up getting these guys to both lose balance. So suddenly, this is way clearer because both of these guys are going to fall over trying to engage here. And then what I just love about Cooper, man, he's trying to stay a little low. He doesn't always do a very good job of that part of his game. He tends to tackle pretty high, but he's just a wrestler once he gets his hands on you. He's going to drive his legs. He's going to twist. He's going to contort just like that. He tackles a bit like a wrestler. And sometimes it can be frustrating. I wish you would tackle a bit lower more consistently. But, man, he brings guys to the ground even from awkward angles like this. This is a good example of that. Fearlessly meeting a power back in the A-gap and then just throwing him to the ground like that. It definitely feels like the game slowed down for Cooper in his second season. Now, he didn't have the splashy plays of his first year in the league, but I do think he was a bit more consistent and things just started to slow down for him. This is a good example of it. We got Cooper right here, and we're going to have double pullers. Hey, Cat. We're going to pull both guards into space, and typically for a linebacker, when you see pullers like that, your instinct and what you're typically told is to scrape over and fill those new gaps, right? Cooper's going to stay a bit more patient than that because you're going to see he feels the pullers happen, And instead of spilling all the way over, mostly I think because, Quay is in a much wider alignment. We don't have two traditional backers here and here. His responsibilities change a bit with those pullers because if he overfills this way, suddenly we have a very big gap if the rest of this gets blocked up. So instead of overspilling against those pullers, you can see he's staying patient and he's going to cut right behind this puller and meet Austin Ekeler at the line of scrimmage, 0-yard gain. Just use his gravity and core strength to just throw him to the ground. Nice patience there. You don't want to be too antsy sometimes as a linebacker because the second you start to get over aggressive, things can go really poorly. Something I wish the Packers did more last season was use Cooper in the pass rush game. But they still worked a couple interesting games with him that were effective, and this is a good example of that. So we've got Cooper and Parsons on one side. We've got Carl Brooks as the nose. I think that's Enigbari and Gary as the other two on this side. And so what we're going to do is just play some games. We're going to leave Parsons on this side, try and split a double team, let Parsons be, Parsons. And then we're going to slant at least these two guys this way. I think Gary might also be, but I'm not 100% sure. But at the very least, for the game that we're playing, we're slanting these two inside, and Cooper's going to loop over and try and get pressure. And boy, does this work effectively because we're going to get all of the eyes of these interior dudes looking and trying to react to these inside slants as we loop around. You'll see that as we roll it, how effective this ends up working because, hey, we're really focused on Micah over here. This tackle's focused on Gary, but the interior starts feeling those twists like, hey, we're slanting inside. We're worried here. This guy's leaning too forward, trying to catch Cooper coming around. This guy's eyes are going to follow this inside move. And then suddenly Cooper's great bend. Look at him just fire around that edge. Gets a free shot to Jaden, rushes his process. He takes a shot. Now it's still almost a completion. Got to give Jaden credit for that. But a really nice way to use Cooper. And just, again, watch how quickly he fires off this foot and then bends that corner. Really tight path to the quarterback on this game as well, right there. I want to see more of that in 2026. I think especially as Parsons is going to likely miss like the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Got to get more creative with your pass rush, and Cooper has some of this ability to be really effective when you can scheme up ways for him, to be involved in the pass rush game. I keep bringing this part up, man, but like really legit play strength in this guy, man. He has gotten so much more physical as he's filled out his frame. It was my big worry is I knew he was wiry strong at Texas A&M, but I was like, what is that frame going to be able to add weight to make him stronger? And boy, has it. This is going to be a good example. He's just trying to go down into the flat and, cover anything around here and then break down on anything he sees in front of his eyes. And you can see, like, he's kind of in the way. He's got to get around this receiver, but he sees Flacco's eyes are going right to that running back on the check down. So Cooper's like, perfect, I got to get out there. And just look at the stopping power here as he meets the ball carrier. Just, woof. He snaps that head back with some violent intentions. He can hit like a freight train sometimes, man. It may not always look like it, but, man, he plays with some nastiness. That I just really, really enjoy. Hell of a play here on is that second first down. It's a defensive stop for sure. That's not a successful play for the offense. Nice job by Cooper reacting and breaking down on that. Really enjoy this one, man. We've seen all the violence, the tenaciousness, the willingness to meet guys in the A-gap and stuff, but he's still a really plus athlete, and we've got him now off on the edge on a goal line stand against the Cowboys. Tight end's going to try and block him. He's just going to, it's across the formation. Is that Hunter Lepke? Is going to motion across the formation. Cooper's ready for it. He's just going to sidestep that block, make the blocker whiff, and then he's just going to throw his face in there, and Quay deserves credit on this play too. I thought he's really just coming to his own. Sucks to leave him. Glad he got paid. I would not have paid him that much, but man, he has come a long, long way as a linebacker. If you watch Quay here, just firing downhill on that. Both Cooper and Quay make really nice plays to meet the ball carrier in the backfield at the goal line. But you got to love the movement skills from Cooper here. Just so effortlessly sidesteps that block coming across the formation to get into the backfield and help with that goal line stand. We always talk about blitzes, and blitzes sound fun in theory, but blitzing always adds extra stress on other defenders. And in this example, we're going to send Quay in an interior blitz. That sounds great, right? Like get a linebacker in there, throw his face. The problem is, let's say everything gets blocked up correctly. Look at all this space in the zone that Quay is occupying that suddenly needs to be filled. That puts pressure on McKinney. That puts pressure on anyone to the right of Quay off screen. Puts pressure on Cooper. Your run responsibilities change as blitzes happen. It's not just pass coverage responsibilities. How you fill the run is also important. So for a guy like Cooper, when your counterpart is blitzing, you've got to focus on, am I filling out here or am I spilling out here to replace Quay? So puts a lot of added pressure on you. And as you see this, Cooper reacts really nicely. So we're slanting inside here and we're throwing Quay in an interior blitz. That leaves a lot of space out here that needs to be covered for run responsibilities. And it feels like the running back's reacting to that pretty quick. Now, Evan Williams is coming across the formation as well to try and help with this. Cooper's initial responsibility feels like this gap. That's not, I'm going to confirm for sure. I'm never going to pretend like I know, what gap responsibilities are what if I'm not certain. Only the defensive game plan, the team knows that. But it feels like he's trying to step up here. And as soon as that running back bounces, which he has the instincts to go, he's wanting to bounce this, very quickly reacts and spills over. Because again, you can see all this vacated space because of the Quay blitz. Cooper reacts to that quickly and it gets a nice job attacking at the hip, bringing the ball carrier down. You can see how much added pressure that puts on a linebacker in this situation. But Cooper reacts so dang quickly to bounce that back outside, help replace, makes a tackle. Nothing there in the run game. Really nice job and a good example of what that added pressure does. Blitzing sounds fun and all. You just got to remember, puts more responsibilities on the other players. This has got to be one of my favorite plays of the video we're going to talk about today. We got Cooper here. He is lined up man-to-man against Trey McBride. One of the top 2-3 tight ends in football right now, particularly as a route runner, but just an absolute beast. And I don't care what linebacker you are, that is going to be a mismatch for you. You're going against an all-pro tight end. I believe he's an all-pro, but just a phenomenal player. There's a lot of added responsibility, and that's a tough matchup, especially when we're running a play fake and you have to, initially read run. And the second he feels, I'm still looking run, but McBride's running out to me, I've got to turn and carry. And now this is not the situation we want to be in. Your eyes are turned from the quarterback, and now you're just following the tight end up the seam. And for quarterbacks, they're taught, hey, if I can see the back of his helmet, my receiver is open, which is totally right. Like, this is not a good situation for Cooper to be in, right? I'm turned away from the quarterback. I assume the ball's coming, and he's got a step on me. That is not where I want to be as a linebacker. What I love here, though, is the effort. He's going to keep hustling back to that ball. He sees the hands go up, and the second he sees McBride turn and get his hands up, Cooper's hand is right there going, okay. And then he gets that second hand up and get in the middle. You can see he's aiming for the middle of these hands and trying to split them so that he can't come down on the ball. The reaction time to do that is exactly what is needed because it results in an incomplete pass. Let me rewind that a second. To follow that time up, getting your hands in the middle of that throwing window. That is such a tough situation to be in as a linebacker, but to have that play speed to follow McBride up the seam like that, recover, and then make that play on the ball. Just outstanding work. Prevents a touchdown. That's a massive play. Just really love watching Cooper, process information in front of him. Wearing the old school throwbacks. I don't know if they're ever going to get these right, but this feels like one of the better renditions of it, but you got to get rid of the bright yellow accessories. That's besides the point. This is a good example from Cooper. Just that post-snap processing is really coming into his own. We're going to see very quickly him react to an outside zone. How we can tell it's outside zone, much wider steps, even shoulders turned from these blockers to try and create a path where, this running back can adjust, read the blocks, and cut upfield. Cooper's going to react so quickly to that, he's going to make this really hard. So outside zone, he's like, it's outside zone. This tackle wants to climb and seal to Cooper, but he's so fast downhill, as you're going to see, that tackle cannot get to him. Throws him off balance a little bit, but he recovers, gets around the hip of the running back, lets the teammates help corral him. But I just love the way he fires downhill, how quickly he reacts to that outside zone and helps make the play. Now, again, not the cleanest tackle attempt. If he gets a little lower here, I'm not going to fault him on this one. But it's that speed, it's that tenaciousness, and that wiry strength. He's just consistently finding ways to get into the backfield and get to ball carriers. It's one thing to be responsible with gap integrity as a linebacker, but it's another level, and that's when you're starting to get into like masterclass of linebacker. When you can start to read what and bait the running back into choosing what gap he's going to run into. And this is a great example from Cooper. And hopefully this, I'm not sure if that makes total sense, but it'll make sense after watching this play. So as we let this play develop, you're going to see that he's just like, oh, what should I do here? He's like kind of diagnosing what's happening. We're seeing that combo block. We're trying to climb up to Cooper. So he's like, oh, I think I see what's happening based on our front. This guy's going to want to climb to seal off McKinney. And if I overspill here, who is that? Rico Dowdle is going to have, a wide open rushing lane. So let me, instead of just filling gap responsibility like a robot, well, I have this gap on this run. Let me fill that way. I'm going to just sneak over here until he commits to this gap. He wants Dowdle to run into that gap. And the second he goes, oh, his eyes have turned. He's now looking. He's like, oh, this is open. Cooper's like, perfect. I've baited him. Now watch me get to work. And then meets him in that gap and punishes him for making that decision. And that's what I'm talking about. This is the next level of playing linebacker. It's not understanding your gap assignments. It's understanding them to the point you can bait a running back into thinking a gap is open and then quickly closing it like he does here. That is when you start to become one of the best linebackers in football. And I do feel that way about Cooper, not only because of his talent, but also the NFL right now, as Fred Warner's injuries pile up and age happens with him. There's really not that many super awesome off-ball linebackers in the league right now. I do feel like Cooper still is one of the best. When you're trying to be an aggressive tackling team and going for turnovers, there's a really good adage. It's like when there's two guys attacking a ball carrier, the first guy tackles him, and the second guy goes after the football. It's not always the case. You got two-man corrals based on leverage, but in certain situations when it's like, okay, the first guy's clearly bringing this guy down, the second guy can come in there and really try and make a play on the football to make a splash play. It's exactly what we get on this QB draw from Jalen Hurts. So he's going to turn and run. McKinney's going to avoid this block, and he's going to start making that tackle. So he's bringing Hurts to the ground. Cooper sees that and goes, all right, looks like McKinney's got this. Looks like this guy's falling forward. Let me attack that football. And he does exactly that to force the fumble. Great heads-up play. If I recall, it ends up being a challenge. It's a long review, but ultimately ruled a fumble, and a great job from Cooper. Just that's a heads-up play, man, to understand, like, hey, Hurts is already going down. Let me just try and see if I can get at that football. And that's, he does exactly that by punching and ripping that out. That's a great job there. I told you before, I take credit for the term "that boy fast" when just talking about Edgerrin Cooper. Plays like this are why. We're going to motion over that tight end, and we're just going to run a little pin and pull toss, get some guys out in space. Watch how quickly Cooper reacts to the toss, and then just right here, watch him just fly across the field. No blockers can catch up to him. He comes from the backside in pursuit as Gibbs is waiting for blocks to develop. And that's one of the fastest running backs in football. And again, he's probably being patient, trying to let blocks develop. But the hustle from Cooper across the field like this leads to just a 2-yard gain. And sometimes when those plays are blocked up well, that could be an explosive, a touchdown. That's a great individual effort from Cooper. Just being like, I want to get to Gibbs. He will not break this away on us. And that's just something he does routinely, even from the backside of a play. He's got some of the best play speed you'll see from an off-ball linebacker on plays like this one. We're going to see some of that big wrestler energy again from Cooper here. This is 3rd and 4, and the Bears are going to try and run it to get to the sticks. And what we're going to see is a little bit of a loop. I'm not sure if I don't think that's by design between Quay and Cooper, but Cooper's going to react, be like, oh, Quay's eating up this double team here. Let me just get to the ball carry, go around that double team, and then he's just going to meet head on with this running back, and just look how low they are. Helmets collide. I don't think this is the play where Monungai's helmet explodes. It might be, though. Someone else will have to remind me in the comments. But that's not what I want to talk about. Sorry, I got off track. As he meets that ball carry, just look at the effort here. He's just grabbing at him. He's wrestling him down. He's refusing to let him get to that first down. Let's rewind it again and make sure we circle him. You got the violence to meet that ball carrier, head on in that gap. And then you're just the individual effort. He's just dragging him, preventing that extra yardage. That is just such an impressive effort from a guy. Ends up being 4th and 1 because of it. He can really just combine, like, again, the movement skills with that physicality and violence. I love it so much because he just makes such big, impactful plays like this one. Even when it involves trying to single-handedly like carry a running back backwards, the guy that has momentum. That is an absolute hell of a play. You flex after the end of that. Sometimes making splash plays is just doing your homework, and sometimes it feels like it's too easy, but that's just because you're prepared, right? And this is gonna be a great example. We're gonna motion this tight end in right over here because of that, and from the film that Cooper's watched, he knows where the snap count's gonna be based off that motion, and he's gonna time up this snap quite well. So he feels that motion, he starts creeping up. He's fully engaged, breaking downhill before anyone else is really out of their stance. I don't. Everyone's like climbing up or like going up, but I don't know if anyone else has taken a step yet, and you can see fully firing downhill. And because of that, just so quickly gets into the backfield. Wants to make sure it's not some kind of boot action or anything, but he's able to get into the backfield. He reads it is for sure a run, wraps up that ball carrier. Big tackle for loss just because he did his homework and goes, oh, hey, they want to insert that tight end right there. Let me time up this snap, make a big play. Yes, he is explosive. Yes, he is fast. But on a play like this is just preparation, watching a ton of film, knowing what they like to do with tight end motion and when they want to snap the ball off of it. Sometimes you can become a little too predictable, and Cooper felt that. Is prepared, does a nice job breaking down uphill or downhill and timing up that snap. This is a really fun defensive concept from the Packers. They're coming out in a single high look, and it kind of looks like man up, right? Looks like maybe a cover one kind of look. If I'm the quarterback, I'm seeing, hey, sorry, there's a wide receiver behind my big head on the screen. But we got man up, and then I'm thinking this guy's probably, deep cover one, and then this guy's going to play robber. Instead, what we're going to get is a cover two invert, which I always enjoy, which involves as we snap this. So instead of that cover one look, this safety is going to buzz down here and take a zone drop or hook. And then we've got two deep halves between Carrington, Valentine, and Nixon. They are now cover two. And when it's inverted, typically safeties are playing those deep halves, right? Instead, on a cover two invert, those corners take deep half responsibilities. Yeah, like I said, Nixon buzzes down. And then we have a bunch of guys dropping into the flats and hook zone curls here. Cooper's got the toughest job in a cover two invert, which is especially after being mugged up like he was. And when I say mugged up, I'm talking about like on the line of scrimmage, acting like you're going to blitz. He suddenly has to drop, and he's the, Tampa 2 dropper, that middle of the field, where he's got to gain a ton of depth and then cover the middle of the field. Really tough responsibility here, but he's fast enough. He's reading this route concept. He's like, this guy's going underneath, not my problem. We've got a ton of zone defenders to take care of that underneath. My responsibility is this guy middle of the field that's carrying up the seam. So he's reading that. He's got inside leverage on it. As soon as he sees that route stem break, he's got to slow down, get turned, gets a little bit of a hand on him, and that might be a bit of a hook, but I'm not going to be nitpicky about it because they didn't call it. And then he's just going to break on that football. And I can zoom in here. First off, let's show that mugged up look. This is 4th down, by the way. So they're going for it on 4th down in plus territory. Tons of pressure on this play. Let me zoom this way up so we can watch this. So Cooper carrying up that seam. He sees out, he's breaking in. Little bit of a hook there. Not a ton, but he's using that to get his momentum and speed, work on that in-breaking route, and then he's just attacking that football on 4th down. Huge stop, great play. Really stressful situation for a guy like Cooper in a cover two invert with this really, big pressure look. All these guys walked up. No one knows who's rushing, who's going out into coverage, and he's got to cover a ton of ground. This is a great play. 2 of my favorite plays from this video have been really difficult coverage assignments from Cooper, which is not what I was expecting when I was turning on the tape. Last one of the day against the Ravens, just to wrap things up, tie a nice bow on it. We've shown all the speed, we've shown all the power, we've shown all the coverage. I just love this from a linebacker perspective. After coaching them for so long, something I'm always taught about when you're engaging with the blocker is getting low and using your hips to engage with contact. And we're going to run a fullback right at Cooper right here. He's got to step up into this block because this is exactly what they want to do. Cooper's going to stay low, take on half a man instead of a full man in this situation so he can keep a gap. He's going to get low into that. Look how low he's getting into that contact. He's going to uncork those hips. Look at how much he's constricted this rushing lane because he got low, engaged, and instead of just putting hands on a fullback and getting washed down this way, he's completely constricted it by getting low and taking on that block. Ends up meeting the ball carrier in the process, and him and Nixon just wrestle the guy to the ground. But I love this man. As someone that had to coach linebackers, it's really hard to teach them how to engage blocks properly. It's not sexy or anything, but man, is the way that Cooper engages this fullback effective and completely blow up this run play. Being a thumper like he might have to be more of this season after the departure of Quay. But man, that's some football, man. And I love my fullbacks. But that is physical smash mouth football from a linebacker like Cooper. After watching the film, I'm just way more impressed with Cooper's versatility than I remember. I just thought of him as more of a, sideline to sideline, super fast, and yes, wiry, strong, and pretty competitive. I knew that part. The coverage stuff I had kind of forgotten about over the offseason. Like the movement skills plus instincts are really starting to help him develop into a very plus coverage linebacker at times. And I want to see more of that. And I think with Jonathan Gannon, who's likely going to run a quarter system, going to put more pressure on Cooper to, both be a coverage linebacker and hopefully a little bit of a blitzer or pass rusher as well. I'm very interested to see what Cooper can do in year 3. What have you thought of Cooper so far during his time with the Packers, and what do you think he's going to become? Let me know in the comments. I know he's a very popular player, Cowboy Coop. Big fan of his. I'm hoping for that big leap forward this season. So that'll do it for today. We'll be back on Friday with another 2027 prospect at linebacker I'm fascinated by, who's transferring to Texas. I know we've done a lot of Texas videos lately, but they're loaded, man, with prospects, and I don't think we're talking enough about some of them, including the guy we're going to talk about on Friday. So that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you next time.